Captain Jake Morrison was finishing his morning coffee aboard the orbital defense station Liberty 1 when the universe changed forever. The first sign was a ripple in space itself, like looking at the stars through disturbed water. Jake set down his cup and moved to the observation deck, squinting at what looked like a heat mirage spreading across the darkness of space. "Sir, you need to see this," Communications Officer Lisa Rodriguez called from the command center. Her voice carried a tension that made Jake's stomach tighten. He had served with Lisa for 3 years, and she never got rattled by routine space, debris, or satellite malfunctions. Jake hurried to the main display where Lisa was staring at readings that made no sense. The deep space sensors were detecting massive objects materializing from nothing, appearing in Earth's solar system as if they had simply decided to exist. The energy signatures were unlike anything in human records, and they were getting stronger by the second. "How many contacts?" Jake asked, though part of him didn't want to know the answer. 237 vessels and counting," Lisa replied. "Sir, they're huge. The largest ones are showing up as nearly 10 miles long. They're just appearing out of nowhere, like space is folding in on itself." Down on Earth, Dr. Elena Vasquez was running her routine morning check of the deep space monitoring array when every alarm in the facility started screaming at once. The massive radio telescopes that scanned the heavens for signs of extraterrestrial life had suddenly found more than they had ever hoped for, and the discovery was terrifying. Elena's hands flew across her keyboard as she tried to make sense of the data flooding her screens. The objects were not following any known laws of physics. They were appearing instantaneously at various points around Earth, their energy output suggesting technology that was centuries ahead of anything humanity had developed. "This can't be right," she whispered to herself, running the calculations again. But the numbers didn't change. 237 objects, ranging in size from small fighters to massive vessels that dwarfed Earth's largest ships, had just materialized in space around the planet. Elena grabbed her secure phone and dialed the emergency number for Space Command. Admiral Carlos Bennett answered on the first ring, his voice already tense with the kind of authority that came from dealing with crisis situations. "Admiral, this is Dr. Vasquez at Deep Space Monitoring. We have an emergency situation. Multiple, large objects have just appeared in near-Earth space. I'm transmitting the data now, but you need to know that these vessels are using technology we don't understand." Bennett's response was immediate and calm. "Doctor, how certain are you about these readings?" "Completely certain, sir. The objects are real, they're artificial, and they're definitely not human. Some of them are larger than anything we've ever built. Their energy signatures suggest propulsion systems that can manipulate space-time itself." As Elena transmitted her data to Space Command, the alien vessels began to move with purpose and coordination that spoke of military precision. They positioned themselves over every major population center on Earth, hanging in the sky like crystal mountains that caught and reflected sunlight in ways that hurt to look at directly. President Maria Santos was in her daily security briefing when her chief of staff burst through the door without knocking. The look on his face told her that whatever was happening was far beyond the usual political crises that filled her days as leader of the free world. "Madam President, we have a code red situation. Admiral Bennett is requesting immediate video conference with you and the Security Council. There are objects in space above our major cities." Maria felt her blood turn cold. In her 2 years as president, she had been briefed on various scenarios involving potential alien contact, but those had always seemed like distant theoretical possibilities. The panic in her aide's voice told her that theory had just become terrifying reality. Within minutes, she was in the secure conference room watching Admiral Bennett's grim face on the main screen. Behind him, she could see the organized chaos of Space Command's operations center, with officers running between stations and displays showing tactical information that looked like something from a science fiction movie. "Madam President, at approximately 0800 hours Eastern Time, 237 unidentified vessels appeared in Earth orbit. They are clearly artificial, clearly not of human origin, and they have positioned themselves in a pattern that suggests hostile intent. Each major city on Earth now has at least one large vessel directly overhead. Maria stared at the tactical display showing red markers positioned over New York, London, Tokyo, Paris, and dozens of other cities. Admiral, are you telling me we're under attack by aliens? I'm telling you we're facing a situation we've never encountered before. The vessels are not responding to any attempts at communication, and their technology appears to be far in advance of our own. Defense Secretary Robert Hayes and General Patricia Cross are standing by for your orders. The alien ships hung in the sky above Earth's cities like impossible dreams made manifest. They were beautiful in their own way, constructed from what looked like living crystal that shifted and flowed in patterns that seemed almost organic. Each vessel was unique, but they all shared the same ethereal quality that made them appear more like works of art than instruments of war. On the streets below, people stopped their daily routines and stared up at the sky in wonder and growing fear. Traffic came to a standstill in Manhattan as millions of people pointed at the massive vessel hovering above the Empire State Building. Similar scenes played out in every major city as humanity got its first look at visitors from the stars. The ships remained silent for exactly 30 minutes, hanging motionless above Earth's population centers like monuments to human insignificance. Then, at precisely 08:30 hours, every radio, television, cell phone, and communication device on the planet received the same message simultaneously. The voice that spoke was clearly artificial, but it carried an authority that made listeners stop whatever they were doing and pay attention. The words were in perfect English, though similar messages were being broadcast in every human language at the same time. People of Earth, we are the hegemony. We have observed your species for many cycles and find you suitable for integration into our empire. Your world contains resources we require, and your population will serve useful functions within our structure. You will surrender unconditionally, or you will be eliminated. You have 20 minutes to comply. The transmission ended, leaving Earth's 7 billion people staring at screens and speakers in stunned silence. 20 minutes to surrender or face destruction by beings whose technology made humanity's greatest achievements look like stone tools. The countdown had begun, and the clock was ticking toward what might be the end of human civilization. The countdown clock on every screen across the world showed 19 minutes and 58 seconds when the first alien fighter broke away from the massive ships. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner gripped the controls of his F-35 Lightning as he watched the sleek craft drop from the crystalline vessel hovering over the Pacific Fleet. The alien fighter moved unlike anything he had ever seen, sliding through the air as if the laws of physics meant nothing to it. "All squadrons, weapons free," came Admiral Bennett's voice through the radio. Alex squeezed the trigger and watched his missiles streak toward the alien craft. The weapons struck what looked like empty air 3 feet from the enemy ship and exploded harmlessly. Energy shields, Alex realized. The alien fighter turned toward him with movements that seemed almost casual. The return fire came as a beam of purple light that cut through Alex's wingman's aircraft like a hot knife through butter. The F-35 simply fell apart in midair, its pilot never having a chance to eject. Alex pulled hard right as another beam sliced past his canopy, close enough that he could feel the heat through the glass. "They're cutting us apart up here," Alex radioed to command as he watched 3 more fighters from his squadron disappear in flashes of purple light. The alien weapons didn't explode their targets, they simply made them stop existing. Whatever those beams touched just ceased to be there anymore. On the ground in Washington, Major Sam Collins watched through his binoculars as dark shapes began dropping from the alien ships. The dropships were smooth and round like giant seeds, and when they touched down, they split open like flowers. What came out made Sam's blood run cold. The aliens stood nearly 8 feet tall on long, thin legs that bent in ways that hurt to look at. Their bodies were covered in what looked like black metal armor that moved with them like a second skin. Most disturbing were their faces, hidden behind masks that looked like the skull of some predatory bird. They carried weapons that hummed, with the same purple energy that was tearing apart the fighter jets overhead. "Open fire!" Sam ordered his men. The sound of rifles and machine guns filled the air as his soldiers poured everything they had at the advancing aliens. The bullets struck the creatures and simply bounced off their armor like raindrops. A few aliens paused and turned their bird skull faces toward Sam's position. The purple beams swept across the defensive line like searchlights. Where they touched, soldiers and their weapons simply vanished, leaving behind only empty uniforms and confused screams from the survivors. Sam dove behind a concrete barrier as one of the beams passed inches over his head, taking the top half of the barrier with it. "Fall back!" Sam shouted into his radio. "Conventional weapons are useless. All units fall back." But there was nowhere to run. The aliens moved with perfect coordination, advancing in a line that never broke, never hesitated, never showed any sign of fear or confusion. In the skies above New York, Captain Jake Morrison watched from Liberty One as wave after wave of human aircraft threw themselves at the alien fighters. The orbital defense station's weapons were no more effective than the fighters below. Every missile, every energy blast, every desperate attack struck those impossible shields and accomplished nothing. "Sir, we're receiving reports from all theaters," Communications Officer Lisa Rodriguez called out. "London, Tokyo, Berlin, Moscow, every major city is under attack. The pattern is the same everywhere. Our weapons can't penetrate their defenses." Jake stared at the tactical display showing red markers spreading across the globe like a disease. 17 minutes had passed since the invasion began. In 17 minutes, the combined military might of Earth had been reduced to scattered groups of survivors running for their lives. The alien ships hung in the sky like monuments to human helplessness. Their weapons continued to fire with mechanical precision, targeting military bases, government buildings, and communication centers. They weren't trying to kill everyone, Jake realized. They were systematically dismantling Earth's ability to resist. Dr. Rachel Kim pressed her face against the window of the Antarctica research station and watched alien dropships landing on the ice in the distance. But something was wrong. The ships were landing far from her station, almost as if they were avoiding it. She turned to her instruments and began taking readings of the local electromagnetic field. The numbers made her heart race. The natural EM field around the research station was nearly 10 times stronger than normal, created by the unique geological conditions beneath the ice. The alien ships were staying away from areas with high electromagnetic activity. Rachel grabbed her radio and tried to contact Space Command, but static filled the channel. "Come on," she whispered, adjusting the frequency. "Someone has to hear this." Meanwhile, President Maria Santos sat in the secure bunker beneath the White House and watched her military advisors stare at their screens in shock. Defense Secretary Robert Hayes kept shaking his head and muttering about impossible technology. General Patricia Cross was shouting orders at field commanders who were no longer responding. "Madam President," an aide rushed up to her. "We're receiving reports that the alien ground forces have reached the outer perimeter of Washington. Secret Service is requesting immediate evacuation to Site R." Maria looked at the countdown clock. 18 minutes and 30 seconds. In less than 2 minutes, the most powerful military in human history had been reduced to scattered fragments. The aliens had done exactly what they promised. They had demonstrated that resistance was futile. But something nagged at the back of her mind. General Cross had been strangely calm during the initial briefing, almost as if she had been expecting this. When the alien ultimatum first arrived, Cross had immediately disappeared into a secure communication room and hadn't emerged for nearly 10 minutes. The purple beams continued to sweep across battlefields around the world. In Paris, French forces, watched their tanks melt under alien fire. In Beijing, Chinese missiles exploded harmlessly against energy shields. In Tel Aviv, Israeli pilots ejected from aircraft that simply disintegrated around them. The alien strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. Overwhelming technological superiority combined with a devastating psychological impact. Show the enemy that resistance is impossible, and they will surrender without requiring the complete destruction of their infrastructure or population. At 18 minutes and 45 seconds, it looked like the strategy was working perfectly. Human forces everywhere were in full retreat. Communications networks were down. Command structures had collapsed. The aliens had achieved in less than 19 minutes what military planners had assumed would take days or weeks. The countdown clock showed 19 minutes and 50 seconds when Dr. Rachel Kim's message finally broke through the static and reached Admiral Bennett at Space Command. Her words would change everything. But at that moment, Earth's defenders had no way of knowing that their darkest hour was about to become their finest. Admiral Bennett grabbed the radio as Dr. Rachel Kim's voice crackled through the static from Antarctica. Her words came fast and urgent, almost drowned out by the sound of explosions in the background. The alien ships were avoiding areas with high electromagnetic activity, she said. They were staying away from geological hotspots like they were afraid of something. Bennett's mind raced as he connected Kim's report with other strange patterns he had noticed. The aliens had avoided Yellowstone completely, even though it housed one of America's most important research facilities. They had also steered clear of Iceland, Hawaii, and the areas around major fault lines. These weren't random choices. "Get me Dr. Nathan Price at Yellowstone Observatory," Bennett barked at his communications officer, "and patch me through to General Cross immediately." The connection to Yellowstone took precious seconds to establish. When Dr. Price's face appeared on the screen, his eyes were wide with fear and excitement. Behind him, banks of monitoring equipment showed readings that made no sense under normal circumstances. "Admiral, you need to know something," Price said before Bennett could speak. "The geological readings here have gone completely crazy. Every seismic sensor, every electromagnetic detector, everything is showing massive energy buildup beneath the surface. It's like the Earth itself is waking up." Bennett felt his heart skip a beat. "Doctor, I need you to listen carefully. Are you seeing any alien activity in your area?" "That's the strange thing," Price replied. "Their ships are staying at least 50 miles away from the park. It's like there's an invisible barrier they won't cross." The pieces began falling into place in Bennett's mind. For 30 years, he had wondered why General Cross insisted on maintaining research stations in the most geologically active areas on Earth. She had always claimed it was for earthquake prediction and volcanic monitoring, but the funding levels and security around those stations had always seemed excessive for simple scientific research. "Admiral," General Cross's voice came through his earpiece, "I need you to come to Sublevel 7 immediately. There's something you need to see." Bennett had been to Cross's command center dozens of times, but he had never heard of Sublevel 7. The elevator descended far deeper than he had ever gone before, past levels he didn't know existed. When the doors opened, he stepped into a room that looked like something from a science fiction movie. Dr. Lisa Zhang stood at a massive control console surrounded by screens showing geological data from around the world. The brilliant physicist looked up as Bennett entered, her face serious but determined. Behind her, Colonel Ryan Murphy monitored a bank of controls that Bennett had never seen before. "Welcome to Project Prometheus," General Cross said. "We've been waiting 30 years for this day." Zhang gestured to the screens around them. "In 1995, our deep space monitoring stations detected the first signals from the approaching alien fleet. We calculated they would arrive sometime between 2025 and 2030. That gave us 3 decades to prepare." Bennett stared at the displays showing energy readings from geological sites across the globe. "Prepare how?" "By turning Earth itself into a weapon," Cross replied. Dr. Zhang's team discovered that tectonic energy could be channeled through quantum field generators to create coherent energy beams, but not just any energy beams. These specific frequency patterns can disrupt the quantum fields that alien shield technology depends on. Zhang pointed to a three-dimensional map of the Earth showing glowing points at every major geological hotspot. We've built quantum resonance weapons inside 12 of the most seismically active locations on the planet: Yellowstone, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, the Ring of Fire. Every major fault line and volcanic system now houses components of our defense network. The aliens' own scanning technology revealed their weakness to us, Murphy added from his control station. Their shields work by creating quantum interference patterns that deflect incoming energy. But they can't deflect energy that originates from quantum resonance fields generated within the Earth's own geological structure. Bennett felt like he was dreaming. You're telling me that for 30 years we've been building weapons inside volcanoes and fault lines? Not just weapons, Cross said. A coordinated global defense system that uses the planet's own geological energy as ammunition. Every earthquake sensor, every volcanic monitoring station, every deep Earth research project has been part of this network. The countdown clock on the main screen showed 19 minutes and 15 seconds. In 45 seconds, Earth would officially surrender to the alien invaders. But Cross was already moving to a separate control panel that Bennett now realized wasn't for monitoring anything. It was for activation. The system requires simultaneous activation from all 12 primary sites, Zhang explained as her fingers flew across the controls. Each location has been connected through quantum communication networks buried deep in the Earth's crust. When we activate, every weapon fires at exactly the same moment. Dr. Price's voice came through the speakers from Yellowstone. I'm seeing massive energy buildup in the magma chamber. The readings are off the charts. What's happening down there? Doctor, you're about to become part of the most important moment in human history, Cross replied as she entered authorization codes into her console. In 30 seconds, Yellowstone is going to become the barrel of the largest gun ever built. Similar reports came flooding in from monitoring stations around the world. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge was showing unprecedented electromagnetic activity. Hawaiian volcanoes were registering energy levels that should have triggered massive eruptions. The San Andreas Fault was humming with power that made no geological sense. The beautiful thing about this system, Zhang said as she completed her final calculations, is that the aliens' own ships are perfect targets. Their size and energy signatures make them impossible to miss, and their shields are completely useless against weapons that fire from inside quantum resonance fields. Bennett watched the screens showing alien ships hovering confidently over major cities, completely unaware that they were floating directly above the business ends of weapons designed specifically to destroy them. The irony was almost perfect. The aliens had positioned themselves exactly where Earth's hidden weapons could do the most damage. All stations report ready, Murphy announced. Quantum field generators are at full power. Targeting systems have locked onto all alien vessels. We have clean shots at every ship in their fleet. Cross looked at the countdown clock. 20 seconds until the alien deadline. 20 seconds until Earth was supposed to surrender unconditionally to superior alien technology. Her finger hovered over the final activation switch. Admiral, she said quietly, would you like to do the honors? Bennett looked around the room at 30 years of preparation, 30 years of secret construction, 30 years of humanity quietly preparing for this exact moment. The aliens thought they were facing a primitive species with crude weapons and no real defenses. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The countdown reached 19 minutes and 55 seconds, 5 seconds until the deadline. Bennett placed his hand on the activation switch and smiled. Earth's response was indeed about to be swift and final. The countdown clock hit exactly 20 minutes when Admiral Bennett's hand came down on the activation switch. For one heartbeat, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Earth itself came alive with power that had been building for 3 decades. Dr. Nathan Price felt it first at Yellowstone. The ground beneath his feet began to vibrate with a deep hum that seemed to come from the planet's core. Every instrument in his observatory went wild as massive amounts of energy surged through the quantum field generators buried deep in the magma chamber below. The sound was like a giant tuning fork struck by the hand of God. Energy discharge. In 3 seconds, Dr. Zhang announced from the underground command center. All stations report ready. Above Yellowstone, the alien command ship hung in the sky like a crystal mountain. Its commander stood on the bridge, waiting for Earth's surrender message. The ship's sensors detected the strange energy buildup below. But 30 years of careful engineering had made the quantum generators invisible to alien scanning technology. The beam that erupted from Yellowstone was beautiful and terrible. A column of blue-white energy, 300 feet wide, shot straight up from the Earth, moving faster than light itself. The alien ship's shields, designed to deflect attacks from space, offered no protection against a weapon that fired from the quantum field beneath it. The massive vessel simply ceased to exist. The beam passed through its hull like it was made of paper, and the ship collapsed into itself before exploding in a flash of light that could be seen from orbit. Debris rained down over 3 states, but the beam continued firing, reaching up into space to strike the alien ships positioned above other continents. At the same moment, 11 other beams erupted from geological hotspots around the world. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge fired a beam that caught the alien fleet above Europe, while volcanic islands in the Pacific sent energy columns into the ships hovering over Asia. Every major alien vessel found itself in the path of weapons that had been aimed at them for decades. Captain Jake Morrison watched from Liberty 1 as the alien ship above New York simply vanished in a flash of blue light. The beam that destroyed it came from deep beneath the ocean floor, where quantum generators hidden in an underwater volcanic vent had waited 30 years for this moment. The energy column was so bright it turned night into day across the entire eastern seaboard. My God, Communications Officer Lisa Rodriguez whispered as she watched the tactical display. Red markers representing alien ships were disappearing from the screen faster than she could count them. "They're all being destroyed!" The alien fighter that had been chasing Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner suddenly lost power and began tumbling toward the ocean. Without the mothership to maintain its systems, the sleek craft became nothing more than an expensive piece of space junk. Alex pulled his damaged F-35 level and watched as similar scenes played out across the sky. All fighters, came Admiral Bennett's voice over the radio. "The alien shields are down. Repeat, alien shields are down. All weapons are now effective." Alex locked onto another alien fighter and fired his remaining missiles. This time they struck home with devastating effect. The alien craft exploded in a ball of fire, its pilot never understanding what had gone wrong with their supposedly invincible technology. On the ground, Major Sam Collins watched the tide of battle change in seconds. The alien soldiers who had been advancing with mechanical precision suddenly stopped and looked up at the sky where their ships had been. Their confident movements became confused and desperate as they realized they were cut off from command and support. "All units, advance," Sam ordered into his radio. "Hit them while they're disorganized." The human soldiers who had been running for their lives minutes earlier now charged back toward the aliens with renewed fury. Bullets that had bounced harmlessly off alien armor now found their mark as the quantum field disruption affected all alien technology. The bird skull masks cracked under rifle fire, revealing startled faces beneath. Dr. Zhang monitored the weapon systems from her control station and smiled as readings poured in from around the world. "All primary targets destroyed," she announced. "Secondary targets are being engaged by conventional forces. The quantum disruption field is holding steady." The beams from Earth's geological weapons continued firing for exactly 60 seconds, long enough to ensure every major alien vessel was either destroyed or crippled. When they finally shut down, The alien invasion fleet had been reduced to scattered wreckage falling through Earth's atmosphere like deadly rain. Colonel Murphy coordinated. The global response as human forces everywhere received the same message through the quantum communication network. The aliens were vulnerable now, their technology disrupted, their command structure shattered. It was time to finish what the invaders had started. In London, British forces emerged from cover to find alien soldiers stumbling around in confusion as their equipment failed. In Tokyo, Japanese pilots discovered that alien fighters were falling from the sky as their power systems died. In Moscow, Russian tanks that had been useless against alien shields now found easy targets in the grounded alien craft. The psychological impact on the surviving aliens was immediate and devastating. They had come to Earth expecting to face a primitive species with crude weapons and no real technology. Instead, they found themselves stranded on a planet that had turned its own geological structure into a weapon system beyond their understanding. President Maria Santos emerged from her bunker to find that Washington's alien attackers were in full retreat. The massive ships that had hung over the capital like symbols of human helplessness were now glowing debris scattered across 3 states. Secret Service agents who had been preparing for evacuation now reported that the immediate threat was over. "Get me Admiral Bennett," she ordered. "I want to know what just happened." Dr. Price stood in the ruins of his Yellowstone observatory and looked up at the clear sky where the alien command ship had been. The quantum beam had fired right through his building, but the energy field had somehow left him and his equipment untouched. 30 years of preparation had paid off in ways that exceeded even the wildest dreams of Project Prometheus. Around the world, human forces pressed their advantage against confused and demoralized alien survivors. The species that had conquered dozens of worlds in 20-minute campaigns now found themselves on the wrong end of a battle that had lasted exactly 61 seconds. Earth's response had indeed been swift, and it was about to be final. 6 minutes after the quantum beams had erupted from Earth's surface, the alien invasion was over. Admiral Bennett stood in the Project Prometheus command center and watched the final red markers disappear from the tactical display. Every alien ship had been destroyed or disabled, and ground forces around the world were reporting the complete surrender of surviving invaders. "Final count, Admiral," Colonel Murphy announced from his station. 237 alien vessels. Destroyed, 0 remaining operational. Ground forces report capturing approximately 3,000 alien survivors. Total human casualties are estimated at fewer than 800 military personnel. Bennett shook his head in amazement. An invasion force that had conquered dozens of worlds had been completely eliminated in less than half an hour. The aliens' 20-minute strategy had become their own destruction when they encountered a species that had spent 30 years preparing for exactly this scenario. Dr. Lisa Zhang was already analyzing data from the captured alien technology. Her screens showed energy readings and material compositions that would advance human science by centuries. The quantum resonance weapons had not only defeated the invaders, but had also disrupted their technology in ways that made it possible to study and reverse engineer. The beautiful irony, Zhang said as she examined the readings, is that their own scanning technology gave us the information we needed to build weapons specifically designed to defeat them. They spent decades studying Earth and never realized we were studying them right back. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner landed his damaged F-35 on the carrier deck and climbed out to find the entire crew cheering. The alien fighters that had seemed so invincible 20 minutes earlier were now floating debris in the ocean around them. The ship's recovery teams were already hauling pieces of alien technology aboard for analysis. "Sir," his crew chief called. "Out. We're getting reports that every alien ship in the fleet has been destroyed. Whatever those beams were, they took out the entire invasion force in one shot." Alex looked up at the sky where the massive alien vessels had hung like monuments to human helplessness. Now there was nothing but clear blue sky and the occasional streak of burning debris. Earth had won a victory that military historians would study for generations. On the ground in Washington, Major Sam Collins coordinated the roundup of surviving alien soldiers. The creatures that had seemed so terrifying with their energy weapons and impenetrable armor were now confused and frightened prisoners whose technology had completely failed them. Without their ships and command structure, they posed no more threat than any other group of stranded soldiers. "The interrogation teams are getting some interesting information," Sam reported to General Cross over the radio. "These aliens call themselves the hegemony, and they've been using the same 20-minute conquest strategy for over 200 years. They've never encountered a species that could resist their initial assault." Cross smiled grimly as she received similar reports from around the world. The hegemony had built their entire military doctrine around overwhelming technological superiority and psychological warfare. When faced with a species that had secretly prepared countermeasures, their strategy had backfired completely. President Maria Santos addressed the world from the White House lawn, standing in the same spot where she had been prepared to announce Earth's surrender just an hour earlier. Behind her, the smoking remains of alien dropships served as a backdrop to her speech about humanity's greatest victory. "My fellow citizens of Earth," she began, "today we learned that humanity is not alone in the universe. We also learned that when our species is threatened, we do not simply surrender. We prepare, we adapt, and we fight back with everything we have." Dr. Nathan Price emerged from the rebuilt Yellowstone Observatory to find teams of scientists already arriving to study the quantum weapon system. The beam that had fired from beneath his feet had been so precisely calibrated that it had destroyed every alien ship in its path while leaving the surrounding area completely undamaged. "The quantum field generators are still operational," he reported to Admiral Bennett. "Dr. Zhang's team built these systems to last. We could maintain defensive fire for days if necessary." But defensive fire was no longer needed. The alien threat had been eliminated so completely that military analysts were already shifting their focus from defense to the opportunities that captured alien technology would provide. Faster-than-light travel, advanced materials science, energy weapons, and shield technology were all within humanity's grasp. Dr. Rachel Kim arrived at Space Command headquarters from Antarctica, carrying data that would reshape humanity's understanding of the galaxy. Her analysis of alien communication networks had revealed the locations of dozens of other worlds, some conquered by the hegemony and others that might still be free. "The hegemony has been expanding across this region of the galaxy for over 1,000 years, she explained to the assembled military leaders. "They've conquered 47 different species using variations of the same rapid assault strategy. Earth is the first world to successfully resist them." Admiral Bennett realized the implications immediately. Earth had not simply survived an alien invasion. They had defeated a galactic empire's military expedition and captured technology that would allow humanity to take its place among the stars. The species that had spent millennia believing they were alone in the universe were about to become a galactic power. Captain Jake Morrison supervised the installation of alien technology aboard Liberty 1, transforming the orbital defense station into something far beyond its original design. The captured alien engines would allow human ships to travel between stars, while their weapons and shield technology would make Earth's military competitive with any threat they might encounter. "Sir," Communications Officer Lisa Rodriguez called out, "we're detecting new signals from deep space, multiple sources, different from the hegemony transmissions." Morrison looked at the tactical display showing dozens of new contacts scattered across local space. Some were broadcasting what appeared to be distress signals, while others seemed to be sending exploratory messages toward Earth. Word of the hegemony's defeat was already spreading across the galaxy. "It looks like we're about to get a lot more visitors," Morrison said, "but this time they'll be coming to a world that's proven it can defend itself." The cleanup operations continued for weeks as human forces secured alien crash sites and technology, around the world. Every piece of captured equipment was carefully studied and cataloged, building humanity's knowledge base for the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. Earth's 20-minute war had ended not just an invasion, but humanity's isolation in the galaxy. The planet that had seemed so vulnerable just hours earlier was now recognized across local space as a species to be respected and potentially feared. The hegemony had learned too late that some prey fights back, and when Earth responds to a threat, that response is swift and final.